Monica and April became friends in the first grade when they first sat next to each other. Since then, they have been practically inseparable. Together, they did homework, gymnastics, and swam in the river. When you are 12, life is full of miracles and joy. Monica and April could sometimes get into trouble. They would never cause any harm to others, but still made their parents worry. One day, when leaving school, the two friends decided to take a walk along the river before going home. The weather was good, and the girls looked forward to the weekend, which they intended to spend having fun. They looked at the river and chatted about anything and everything. Suddenly, Monica noticed a woman of about 45 who was sitting on a rickety wooden chair and offered to tell the fortunes of passers-by. The woman was well-spoken and asked for only a small fee in exchange for studying someone's palm. In special cases, she waived the fee completely and told someone's fortune for free. Most likely, it was done as a sort of advertising campaign aimed at attracting customers. It worked flawlessly. "Let's try it. It doesn't hurt to try," Monica said. April looked at her friend skeptically and shook her head. She didn't believe in the supernatural, even though she loved to watch movies about magic. "Come on, why not? Let's do it. When's the next time we'll get an opportunity like this? But if you're scared, I can do it alone," Monica continued to insist. Monica's words affected April. She did not want her friend to think of her as a coward, so she pursed her lips and headed towards the fortune teller. The fortune teller looked at the girls attentively, after which she invited them to show her their palms. Monica wanted to be the first one to see her future. The fortune teller examined her fate line, after which she frowned and delivered her verdict. "You, my dear, will wear white for most of your life. But that's not what's most important. Don't get married before 25, and you'll be happy." The fortune teller's words seemed so strange that Monica immediately doubted their validity. "Huh? This sounds like nonsense and lies." The girl mumbled disappointedly and started to walk away. The fortune teller then looked at April expectantly. April hesitated for a moment. She felt that what the fortune teller was doing was just a performance, similar to a theater production. When she stretched out her hand, she was not all that prepared to hear what the fortune teller had to say. "Fear the blue car. If you sit in it, you won't be able to get up." Even if her words were lies, they sounded very strange and unpleasant. In both cases, the fortune teller's prophecy seemed both eerie and meaningless. The fortune teller continued to invite passers-by to see their future and did not take any money from the girls. It is difficult to say whether she was truly gifted or simply taking advantage of people's gullibility. That said, even if the fortune teller really was a charlatan, her acting skills were top-notch. On their way home, Monica and April had a lively discussion about what they were told. Of course, they did not believe the fortune teller and treated the encounter as a joke. Upon returning home, they did not tell their parents about what they heard and proceeded to forget about it altogether. Time flew by. The girls graduated high school and their paths diverged for a while. They spent their youthhood getting to know themselves and having fun. It just so happened that Monica got married very early, without even thinking about the fact that she was violating the fortune teller's instructions. Moreover, she began to work as a nurse in the hospital, and by doing so, fulfilled the prophecy about wearing white clothes. Monica and April understood that the fortune teller was referring to the scrubs that nurses wore at the hospital. Of course, there was nothing too special or unusual about the nursing profession, so the young woman tried not to read too much into the fortune teller's words. One day, Monica and April decided to have a picnic on a lake with a bunch of friends. The young people took everything they needed for a fun afternoon in nature and headed towards a green Ford standing on the side of the road. The car was driven by a young man who recently took it to the shop, where it was repainted and some of its parts replaced. April sat in the front seat and looked out the window with interest. The young man told her that he had recently repainted his car from blue to green. At first, April did not attach much meaning to his words, but then something clicked in her head. "Blue car. That's exactly what the fortune teller told me." The terrible prophecy filled the young woman's heart with fear. April looked at the driver worriedly as he sped up to make a difficult turn. Everything happened in a fraction of a second. April did not even have time to react before the car crashed into a tree at full speed. Unfortunately, the impact was mostly felt on the passenger side, leaving April with serious injuries. The paramedics who arrived on the scene didn't think that April was still alive. But when April was removed from the mangled car, it turned out that she still had a pulse. The young woman was in a limbo filled with darkness and hopelessness. At that moment, she understood what the fortune teller meant. April spent about 6 months in a coma, after which she woke up thanks to the doctor's efforts. According to the young woman, she spent all of that time wandering in a dark tunnel, moving by touch and trying to find light. After waking up, April learned that she suffered a spinal injury in the accident. At first, the doctors feared that the young woman would remain completely paralyzed until the end of her days. But after many tests and intense rehabilitation, April was able to get herself around in a wheelchair. Unfortunately, that's all we can do, the doctor said sympathetically, gently touching the young woman's shoulder at discharge. Tears rolled down April's cheeks. It is so very difficult to become disabled at such a young age. Outside the hospital, April met Monica's eyes and shook her head in dismay. They should have taken the fortune teller's words more seriously. April was well aware of the fact that Monica was unhappy in her marriage. Her husband Simon was an alcoholic and a gambling addict, which often left the couple unable to make ends meet. The prophecy came true. The white clothes and the fact that Monica shouldn't have gotten married before 25. April thought on her way home. What happened to her friend was unfortunate, but what happened to April was a real tragedy. Monica can get a divorce and remarry, but my life is going to be very difficult from now on, April thought, looking longingly at a reflection in the mirror. Of course, things could have been much worse, but on the other hand, a wheelchair made everyday life so much more challenging. After being discharged from the hospital, April became a real recluse and left the house only very rarely. April's parents did everything in their power to make their daughter's life easier, but still, that was not enough. They could not give their daughter the one thing she needed most, her health. In April's eyes, everything else had lost meaning. Time stood still for the unfortunate young woman. It was hard for her to accept that she would be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. She cried almost every morning and evening. Getting used to something like this is very, very difficult. April's parents were just as upset as their daughter was. One day, Monica came to visit her friend. She had lost several pounds and became noticeably thinner. April knew that there was a problem and tried to steer clear of that subject during their conversation so as to not make her friend even more upset. Monica spoke about her work, after which she casually mentioned that she had been seeing the same fortune teller by the water. Can you believe that charlatan is back in her old spot, continuing to beckon people? Monica said with undisguised irritation. She's sitting in the same spot? April said, hopefully. Monica gave her friend a surprised look and then said, yes, in that very same spot. Where else would she be sitting? She'd been making a lot of money there. At that moment, April came up with a very risky idea. She waited until her friend left, after which she left the house in her wheelchair. The river was about half a mile from April's home, but she was able to cover the distance in just a few minutes. The young woman did not feel pain in her arms, nor was she tired. When April got to the river, she did not see the fortune teller in her usual spot. Her eyes started to fill with tears. Once again, I'm unlucky, the young woman thought as she cried. However, she then noticed a chair next to the safety railings. It was the exact same chair that the fortune teller once sat on. Soon afterwards, the fortune teller returned. She likely left briefly to have a bite to eat. After seeing the fortune teller, April rode over towards her as fast as she could. Soon afterwards, April found herself looking at the fortune teller with eyes full of hope. The fortune teller looked at April's open palm and involuntarily shuddered as she said, I already saw these fate lines several years ago. Remember, I warned you, but you didn't believe it. Did you have fun with your friends? April blushed and lowered her eyes. Then she mustered up the courage to ask the question that had been troubling her for a very long time. And what should I do now? Will I be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life? The fortune teller frowned. It was clear from the woman's face that she was thinking about something very intently. From time to time, she looked at the fate line on April's palm and silently moved her lips. Finally, she lowered the young woman's hand and said, "No, all is not lost for you, but you must fight. Look for a place that has an image of a four-leaf plant on its wall. There, they will help you." At that moment, April wanted to kiss the old fortune teller. At first, she did not really understand the meaning of the words spoken to her, but she was grateful even for that piece of information. At home, April told her parents about her meeting with the fortune teller. "April, do you really believe in all these charlatans from the street? They'll tell you anything just to get an extra $1. April's mother said disappointedly. "Yes, Mom, I believe her. In any case, she didn't take any money from me," April exclaimed with tears in her eyes. April's dad, on the other hand, didn't criticize his daughter and immediately volunteered to help. Since the fortune teller was most likely talking about some kind of medical institution, the man immediately began his search. At first, they were unable to find a building with the four-leaf plant. But then, April's father succeeded. The plant they were looking for turned out to be at a clinic that specializes in injuries of the musculoskeletal system. The most surprising thing was that its logo was indeed a four-leaf clover, which in many cultures is a symbol of good luck. "This place is real. It's all true. See, she didn't lie to me. Do you hear me? It wasn't a lie," April kept repeating over and over again. April was so overjoyed that she wanted to jump out of her wheelchair. When April went inside the rehabilitation center, she immediately understood what the old fortune teller was talking about. In order to defeat their illnesses, the center's patients had to believe in themselves and carry out exercises aimed at strengthening their muscles to the point of exhaustion. Many of them could not withstand the difficulties of the rehabilitation process, but April decided to go all the way. She knew that she would not get a second chance, so she continued to believe in her abilities and that luck would smile upon her. Her progress first became visible about 6 months after the start of treatment. It happened during a massage session when April was first able to move the toes in her left foot. In her condition, this was a sign of definite progress. More successes followed. 6 months later, April was able to get up from her wheelchair and take a few steps with the support of a walking stick. Those who knew April considered this to be a real miracle, but the young woman thought it was fate. At the same time, she admitted that it was possible that the fortune teller said those words just to boost the young woman's morale. April did not want to dedicate too much thought to the subject. Instead, she directed all of her efforts towards rehabilitation. When April finally walked out of the medical center on her own feet, she mentally wished good health to the fortune teller and vowed to never again ask to see her future.